Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is approval of the minutes. Do you have a date for the minutes that we're talking about?
The 9th,
It was Wednesday, the 8th.
Wednesday the 8th.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the minutes of the 8th January.
Second?
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, next is addition to the agenda. I have one which is budget schedules. Just see what dates we can get together. We might need a special meeting to talk about the budget as it unfurls. Good. Is there a second to adding that?
Second?
Any discussion? Any other additions?
No, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Communications. So, communications. We do happen to have, we welcome Representative Horn here with us tonight. Just happens to be coming through town.
I am.
She is? Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you have a
It's
communication for us?
Always a pleasure to be here tonight. I am here particularly tonight to present Joyce the thanks of the state of Connecticut for your tremendous service to Cornwall. So I have something for you.
Gordon.
That was a side eye.
There are several people to blame for this.
Yeah, mostly yourself.
So I want to present you tonight this on behalf of the state of Connecticut. The General Assembly presents this official citation introduced by myself and Senator Craig Minor. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Joyce Hart in recognition of 22 years of dedicated and loyal service to the town of Cornwall as the town of Cornwall's clerk to the Board of Selectmen. In addition, Joyce served the volunteer fire department for 15 years, was president for 8 years, currently serving as captain of the ambulance squad. Her outstanding leadership and extraordinary service have been a model for others to emulate, and we are grateful for her tireless efforts in serving the people of Cornwall. We extend our deepest appreciation and wish you many years of continued health and happiness. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion. Signed by the President of the Senate, Martin Mooney, Joe Arasinowitz, Speaker of the House, and Denise Merrill, Secretary of State.
There we go. Cheers, cheers. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have one, do you?
No.
Great.
Oh,
There we go.
great.
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Ah.
Great. Yeah, something to
It's on your wall somewhere.
thank you, Maria, for coming.
My pleasure.
Coming by.
Thank you. It is my honor to honor that kind of significant work for town and for people. So,
Great.
thank you.
Yeah,
Congratulations, Chris.
that's it. Yes. So we do actually have, the first item on the agenda is transition. Jonathan's here at the pen, and things have been working out really well. Joyce, I think we made it to noon the first day without calling her up. But we're doing fine. But I didn't know whether the board had any questions for Jonathan, Joyce, exit interviews, any questions there are. Do we have to do anything formally? Is the only thing we thought about that I don't think we'll know about is we do the pistol permits, and Jonathan has to actually have do you have a title?
TAC officer.
He's a TAC officer. Right,
Yeah, I have.
My hand so we can do the pistol permit process.
right, okay. So I would then appoint Jonathan Berry as the town's TAC officer in order to do pistol permits for residents.
I accept.
Okay.
And will contact the state person who is in. I've been liaised by Joyce to contact, who already knows everything that's going on because Joyce set it up perfect.
Right.
So I have an email and that's in the works.
Good. So then, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Anybody else want to do it? We'd love the state to do it all themselves, but in the meantime, we got Jonathan.
I don't know whether you do really well.
I don't know. Great. Anyway, so all those in favor?
Aye.
So anything else on transitions?
And just a big thank you again. And,
Yeah.
and will he know how to do Hammond Beach? Time will tell.
I know where the
All of budget process.
the permit or the
I'm
beach
kidding.
passes are, and I know. Yeah.
I'm kidding. It was just always so seamless to work with you, Joyce, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. All good.
Maybe after 22 years, I'll.
Yeah, maybe.
So my only question is, Joyce going to come every other Tuesday just to sit in the back row and give us, lob a few comments at us?
I'm fair to sit here and go, "Mm."
Yeah, but anyway, thank you again, and thank you both. So, our next dynamic duo is Jim and Roger to talk about the highway budget, so we're good. Okay? So,
Go have one here.
Hi, Joyce.
go have your dinner? Okay, great. So, do you want to stay for the whole thing, Roger? You're interested party? Good. So, let's see, what Barbara has done for us is we have these sort of budget workshops or budget worksheets that have a bunch of things on them. And those are, good night.
Good night.
Yeah. And thank you again, Maria.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Stay for the highway budget, which interests me. but-
Yeah, you have one up in Salisbury too, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.
So, these are all the little lines that make up our highway department. And so what typically happens is we have here going left to right a couple of things. We have 2 years, we have last year's budget, what it was, and what we spent as of June 30th, 2019. And then we have this year's budget, which is the far right column. So if we're doing the garage heat, we have $7,000 budgeted, of which we've spent $2,900. So that's how the columns are. And so Jim and I have worked through these a little bit, and the important thing is that all these budget lines all go into the highway main budget line. So there's only two lines the town votes on. It's the highway vehicle maintenance, which is currently at $55,000 on the second page. And then there is then everything else, which is about 300,000 by the time, a little over 300,000 by the time you total everything else up. So if we have a good year and we have money left over from snow removal, then we can take down more trees. So we can move things in, back and forth somewhat with within the highway department in everything but the vehicle maintenance.
Wait, sorry. Repeat that sentence.
So we
Move
can,
everything around except for vehicle maintenance.
except for vehicle maintenance, that's its own budget line. So
Got it, okay.
and then Barbara will track all these expenditures by these lines.
Uh-huh.
So at the end of the audit season, we'll see how we actually did.
Okay.
So that's why, again, we don't with municipal budgeting, we want to overestimate the expenses and underestimate the revenues slightly because we don't want to have a bad year and run out of money.
Yes.
But on the other hand, we don't want to overestimate the expenses too much, or else we'll have money that we don't need, we'll overtax, we'll have money left at the end of the year. So we want to try to hit that balance between what do we really need, and I have complete confidence in these two gentlemen that they share our Yankee thrift, and that these numbers are very tight. So
You're
we
putting me in the Yankee thrift category.
the
aren't
Yankee
you?
thrift, Yankee thrift. That's a good thing.
I
Yeah,
have
be-
one question though.
Yeah, I'm just
Oh.
rambling on for
Under the top, the highway administration supplies.
Sure.
The third item down, it shows that at the year that ended June 30th, 19.
Right.
It was almost twice what was budgeted.
Correct.
And it's there again today. So it seems to me that we need to increase the budget for supplies because 2 years running, we've spent over 10,000 and we only have 5,000 in the budget.
But-
Right.
But our overall budget
Yeah.
covers it.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
that-
overall budget
But I
covers
agree,
it.
it should change
It
from a
seems
line
like,
item.
because it looks like they're spending too much, and I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure it's what they need, they get. I'm
Right.
not questioning.
Well, maybe Jim can speak to that.
Yeah, so we're talking about highway supplies, which last year we spent about $10,000. This year, according to this, we've already spent $10,000.
Yes.
And it's budgeted at 5. Now, we did look,
I agree.
we've broken that down, so just to see how much fun we can have in this process. Then we can take it to the next level of detail, which is
Yeah,
this
okay.
level of detail, which Barbara can give us, which actually breaks down supplies. So you can see
Yeah.
to date how much we've spent on supplies. And the only thing, now that we looked at it this morning, there are a couple things in here that shouldn't be in here that were miscategorized as far as they could be supplies or they could be used in our sand screening. So what we would do, there's about $3,000 of things in these supplies that some of it's for small equipment and the rest of it's for running the material screener, which we use for our sand. So those should be allocated to other lines. So the $10,000 we spent to date isn't quite that bad.
But it would be good to get closer to, I mean, again, I'd like to hear from Jim, but it seems consistent. I
Yeah.
only see these two figures, but I agree with Priscilla.
Absolutely. So what we thought about was increasing it another $3,000 up to 8. So,
Okay.
so anyway, I'll let Jim take it away. But most of these lines seem to be okay. There were a couple things that we thought we should increase based on what we see happening last year, what we see happening this year. So we had increased the budget line for supplies up to $8,000. And Jonathan, you don't have to do all this, because what we're going to do is we're going to come up with some ideas, and then they'll get submitted to Barbara. So the only thing you really have to record is we've gone over in detail the highway department with the two people that run it. So
Perfect.
our thought was to increase that one up to 8,000, and then we can increase the contracted services from 27,000 up to 30,000. And then Jim felt we can reduce the road materials down to 20,000 because we're doing our own screening.
Whoa, that's a big,
That's a big drop.
it's
There's
a
a reason.
big drop. Why?
Yeah, the reason we can drop our road materials is because we have our own screener.
Right.
So we have started to host the council government screening machine, and we have a gravel bank. So we can make our own now that we have a screening machine, we can make our own gravel and sand for the winter. So that should save us a lot of money. So the road materials are mostly pipe and gravel for the dirt roads is the main things. And let Jim
Yeah.
talk intelligently about it.
All right, Jim, you're on.
So we're talking about the
Road materials.
road materials?
Yep.
Yeah, we had a spike, I think it was, I got my glasses back on, but Gordon and I talked about why one year was kind of high. Last year, I believe, it was for prepping for Ballyhack Road and up on Mohawk Canal. We needed to build the road up, add different material in different places to make that suitable for paving. So it was quicker and easier for us with time constraints to truck it in from, it was already ready to go. We didn't have the screener at that time to cut the costs there. So now we're getting away from hauling in gravel from where we were getting it from a supplier. I think it holds too much moisture. We're getting into more, I'm feeling more mud than we used to have, so I'm thinking it's a material that we're using as part of it. So we're gonna take advantage of this rental and screener and fill the gap of saving money there, like we're doing with snow removal.
And that's good for any possible issue that could arise, like
Right.
in terms of capacity. I mean, I'm learning, so, but
It's good.
in terms of an emergency situation, that screener is equipped
Yeah,
to
we're
do.
the host town of it.
Okay.
And we stockpile.
Okay.
So in emergency, we'll have to stockpile a
Okay.
real, major emergency.
Got it.
We always have the suppliers, but we bought screens so that we have our own, so when we need them, we don't have to rely on the COG. So there was a little cost there, but now we're fully equipped to make different types of material, 3/4, 2-inch, various sizes. So I think we can, as we did with making our own sand for snow removal and saving a pretty good amount of money there, that we can also do the same on dirt roads and hauling gravel materials, road materials.
Okay.
So, yeah, so then going down there, it seemed like the utility numbers, the heat numbers seemed to be okay. Contracted services, we said we're gonna increase that by 2,500. We're gonna increase small equipment by 3,000. Going down the line there, we have overtime labor expense, so the biggest expense here we have is regular labor, and 3 of the highway department are on the clock, hourly basis. But the good news is, because we have a new hire coming in, and we haven't filled that position. There is going to be some savings this year because we've been running with a crew of 3 instead of a crew of 4. When Ted Cheney comes next month, he will start at the introductory level, so that will save us about $7,000 a year over the more veteran operator that he replaced. So the increases that we put up in the top part of the thing will be offset by our estimated some savings on the new. Of course, there is going to be a 3% salary increase, but again, that's a good piece of savings there. And our fuel, oil, grease numbers seem to be okay. Highway signs, you can see we had a bit of a spike there. We spent $3,500 on a $1,500 budget, but that's because we bought the post in stock. So we have, is that right, Jim? We have a couple years of posts. So all we got to do now is buy the signs. So we bought a couple years because we got a good deal, a bulk order on the post. So we have a couple years worth of things. So Jim estimates the 1,500 is a good number to have, as well as dropping down the raw materials 20,000. The the really good news, and I don't want to sound, get ourselves in trouble being too optimistic, but right now you can see the biggest savings, I think, from the way we operate here compared to other towns is we're spending $70,000 on snow removal, which is mostly sand and salt, but we make a lot of our own sand, so you won't see any sand at this point. There we see quite a bit of salt because we've had some ice storms. But again, we spent $28,000 this year out of a $70,000 budget. Last year we came in about $20,000 under budget, and most towns spend 3 or 4 times as much per mile as we do for their materials in this. So it looks like we've got some good stuff there. And again, if we get whacked with a bunch of storms, we can always go back to the Board of Finance in the town and go to reserves. But again, from a budgetary standpoint, these seem to be accurate. You can see last year we spent, actually on the far left column, we spent $52,000 for the whole year for snow removal. And again, some towns can spend that in a month because they use just pure salt. So I'm pretty confident we can drop that down. And again, we spent $28,000 for the season so far, and our building is full of mixed sand and salt, ready to go this weekend. A little bit more stuff coming, so I think we're pretty good on those numbers. And then we have tree maintenance. Again, we work with the power company to take trees down, so we save quite a bit there. Last year we spent 26. This year we have 23 in the budget. Spent 10 so far. Seems to be good. Vehicle maintenance can be a bit of a wild card. And you can see we've spent about $31,000 out of a $55,000 budget so far. So we're, I think we're pretty well on track of where we need to be. We want to have enough, but not too much. Any questions on all that stuff? I know it's a lot to throw out, and again, what we do now is we make note of the changes. Barbara will fill in the blanks, and we'll go through department by department over the next while till we get something fairly set. Here's the latest thing from the Board of Finance. Their meeting last week set their schedule, and we have to get our budget together and to present it to them by the 20th of February. So again, we're gonna start getting really busy next week or the first week in February. Fire department's gonna approve their budget next week. Gonna meet with Ted for the sanitation part, and we'll have to see. Our next meeting, scheduled meeting, is the 4th of February. Whether we have, one of the questions I had for an addition on budget schedule, are nighttime meetings better than daytime? Or if we have to, we're probably going to have to do some, 1 or 2 extra meetings just to pull this all together. So we're going to be meeting out on the 4th. We have to have it out to the Board of Finance probably a week before they meet, so that keeps us back to the 13th. So we really have to get, hopping early February. So
Yeah,
what's your thought?
for me, of course, I can't do day, but I would prefer earlier in the evening.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
What's a good time?
Earlier than 7:30.
Okay, 6, 5?
Yeah, 5 or 6 would work for me great.
Okay. Priscilla?
It's fine.
Yeah. And again, these are thrilling. Jonathan didn't have to come
They're very thrilling.
because it's literally watching ink dry and stuff, but it all needs to be done and gone over, make everything add up.
Thursdays at 5 or 6 are great for me.
Yeah. So maybe we'll. So Richard, here's the thing you can put out there in cyberspace. This is the town schedule for the budget process, and you can see the Board of Selectmen presents their budget. Well, actually, on Thursday the 6th at 7 o'clock here in the town hall, we have a meeting with Region 1 Business Manager, and he'll present the high school budget. So he also does a very good job explaining all that. So we could meet that night beforehand,
That would work.
bring some dinner and just
Yeah,
plow right through it. So why don't we schedule like a 5 o'clock Thursday budget meeting, or see how much stuff we have.
right.
And I would
Six.
I would like to meet with, Ted and Will from the sanitation thing
Yeah.
at some point. And I would like to meet, probably with some fire emergency people. Those are the big parts. As well as we'll be starting to get in requests from organizations, and if we get, if there's somebody you want to meet with, we give substantial funding to the library and to the child center. If you want to meet with some of their people, it's all part of the job. So, but anyway,
I think that's good though.
let's start on that. And again, we may have to do some special meetings that following week. Okay, great. So we're on to our next little piece of the highway budget is capital projects, and we should be doing this all on our computers, but here's where we're at with our capital projects, and here is the other piece of information, which is the 5-year plan, which we adopt every October, and then the first year in that, 2020-2021, is the year we're working on for next year's budget. So again, that's the most real year. It's hard to project everything 3 and 4 years out, 5 years out, but as far as the highway goes, we have $300,000 allocated for road improvement. The town's broken into 5 categories, 5 districts, and we try to do 1 a year, so we are on a 5-year rotation around. The next piece, I already gave you this one. So you can see in here somewhere, if you have your right glasses on, there's road improvements. It has 150, right in the middle of this page, all the little lines on it. There's $150,000 left in that account right now as we speak. We put in $300,000 last May, June for this year. So we generally spend $150,000 on asphalt, paving a section, a town, and then we spend another $150,000 on resurfacing, putting oil and stone down in the section. So again, for paving, I think we can get, what do you think, Jim, about a mile, a little less than a mile for $150,000?
Yeah, just under a mile.
Just under a mile. If you pave, if you oil and stone, you can get 12 miles.
Some
So
roads are 16 feet wide, some are 18, some are 20.
And then what is the longevity of chip sealing road? So.
well, generally you have it's less than if you pave, but it costs 10 times as much to cover an area. So what we do is we have to go around every 5 years, because what we're doing is really sealing the cracks is all we're really trying to do, unless we have an area where it's so beat up that we have to rebuild the whole area and put in new drainage. So that seems like we've got it down now, that after about 5 years it needs to be done again, which is about the schedule we're on.
So every 5 years, chip sealing to do the cracks.
Right.
And it's 10 times more expensive to pave.
Correct. Right. I mean, because you're putting down a lot more material, but again, our philosophy, it's better to cover everything than to get bogged down. Like the state is on like a 30-year thing paving, but by the time we have a former state guy here, but by the time, I would think even asphalt would last how long, Roger? from Jim. 10 years?
Depends on the exposure.
It depends on the exposure, depends on
Asphalt
the
as in
drainage.
paving,
Pardon?
as in paving.
As in paving, depending on the road, might last 10 years, might last
Maybe 12, I think. is the-
Maybe.
The state aims for 12.
12.
Okay,
And
Like I tell people, it's like protecting your skin with sunscreen.
okay,
You know, it's basically protecting, putting the oils back into the sun sticking out.
okay, thank you.
That's why the chip sealing really improves the pavement. The top of Great Hill, we reclaimed, we ground up all the existing asphalt that was up there,
Mhm.
made it into gravel, added some additional gravel, reshaped it, repaved it with what's called two-course bituminous concrete, 3 inches of new asphalt.
Mhm.
And then, about 4 or 5 years later, we went over and then we sealed it with
Mhm.
chip seal. The town did that, the state, and the federal government paid for the repaving of the original project, and that should last quite well. The edges is the first area that's going to break up, is very little gravel at the edge, the center of the road.
Quite well for how many years?
With the usage that gets probably 20 years.
Okay,
And even then, at that point, I wouldn't expect when we take it up, we're just trying to put another
right,
uh,
got it,
lift over it.
thank you.
Yeah. So, so we're in line with what we've done. We've increased that over the years, but it seems like as the price of oil has stabilized, 300,000 seems like a good budgetary number to put in there.
Okay.
So we'll do that in our 5-year plan. And then our next thing is the highway truck. So we're replacing truck 6, and you can look down your list again, and under highway equipment, we have $115,000 in there right now. The current estimate to replace a large-scale highway truck, of which we have 4, is
185.
185,000 without a trade. Not that there's much left to
Without
trade.
a trade, correct.
Without a trade, not that there's too much to trade by the time we get finished with them. But, so we have 110, we put in 100, that would more than cover that. But you also wanted to get another piece of equipment to a blower or something?
Right, it's called a Buffalo turbine blower with a remote chute, so when you get to
Right.
someone's yard, or when somebody walking their dog, you can raise a chute and go past whatever obstacle and then drop the chute back down. And a lot of towns have them. When the leaves fall, that's when, you know, the season changes at that time of year. Our biggest problem is rain washing clumps of leaves into the catch basins, and so the best, you know, remedy is to blow the leaves back. And so I think it's a pretty valuable piece of equipment in the fall for the leaves. We kind of do it a little old-fashioned way right now. We put a leaf blower on the front of the truck, and but
Seen it.
You can't control it, you know. So we're trying to make it a little more modern.
Cool.
Right, so if we had $100,000 to that, at 185, we think, for the truck, 6 for the blower, that's up to 191. So, and again, that gives us a little cushion in case the bids come in a little higher or something. So that seems like if we stick with our planned amount, that would be a solid number.
Okay.
So again, our goal with all these plans is try to get the capital expenses leveled out the best we can. So that's where we're at. So that's more or less the highway department itself in a nutshell. Any questions on any of all that stuff?
No, not currently.
So another aspect of this whole thing is our bridge program, which we've been going at for 3 years now, I think. Hard to Correct. Closer to 20, yeah. So we were able to get some good prices on the bridges and culverts we did this year. We think we have a balance somewhere left that we are supposed to spend according to our bond obligation. The town spent, the town went out to bond because we had a bunch of bridges need to be done. 3-4 years ago, we borrowed $1.5 million. We spent about 1.3 million so far. But we have some money left, so the thought is to look at the next group of bridges that are in fair shape as opposed to poor shape, and there's some work that Roger's been thinking about doing on some more bridges. So what do you think?
Okay, well, I guess what I'm gonna do is give you some of my thoughts on what we might want to consider doing. There are two bridges that I've been asked to take a look at. One is Coxwell Road, and the other one is Ford Hill Road. Notice the hills and everything. Anyhow, Coxwell Road was actually built in 1935. We rehabilitated this bridge 25 years ago, and it is still in structurally good condition. The parapet is deteriorated. What this is showing here is the bond between the aggregate and the concrete and the cement is breaking down. So the stone is literally falling out. Here's some pictures to pass around.
This is Cogswell over Millbrook.
This is Coxwell over Millbrook.
That's the
by the-
five road
Pass
intersection.
by this all the time.
Right, near Julia Scott's.
Yeah.
So I've been out there, poked around it. It's a very heavy bridge. It was built by the DOT back in 1935, the CHD at the time, Connecticut Highway Department, and it's got a lot of mass to it. The parapet itself consists of what's called a safety walk and a curb. This curb is actually a parapet, which is 35 inches high. That's what you're seeing, the crumbling part. My suggestion is we take that right down and just put a 4-inch cap over where the parapet is now. Then we would put a metal guide rail system very similar to what's on Smith Place or the Gravel Bank Road, which we did last year.
Yeah.
That would be the most economical solution. Other solutions, which would be more expensive, is to take the parapet off and cast a new parapet, which would be new concrete, and would have to all be drilled and grouted. This is a relatively simple process, and the structural condition of the bridge doesn't really require any significant work for the next 25 years. The concrete is also starting to deteriorate in the wing walls of this bridge, but there's not much we can do about that without getting into a major replacement, really. So I'm saying that this next repair ought to be good for the next 25 years.
Which is when you think the wing walls will probably
Be further deteriorated to a point where we'll have to think about doing some repairs there. The deck itself is actually 17 inches thick, which is more than twice as thick as most concrete decks.
Built to last.
Yes, it's a very heavy bridge by design standards.
perfect.
It's got 17 inches of concrete in the deck, then it's got 10 inches of gravel over the top of the deck, and 4 inches of bituminous concrete for a wearing surface. And the concrete deck was actually exposed and sealed 25 years ago. So I'm not terribly concerned about the condition of the bridge as far as load carrying capacity, but it does look very unsightly. As you can see from the pictures, it will crumble more and more. We don't do anything about protecting the concrete. With the plows go by, they kick salt and water onto the concrete, and that causes it to deteriorate even faster. So that's Bridge 1. If this type of idea is acceptable, that's a fairly inexpensive repair, and it ought to be good like I said, for about 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only difference is cosmetic, really,
Yeah.
in terms of what you're
Basically.
driving by.
And if you look at the gravel bank bridge, it's a double rail system across the bridge itself. If you look at Smith Place, you'll see the same type of system. It's got an offset so that here it's going to be 16 inches back from the edge of the pavement where the plows will go by. The plows rub on this curb, and this rail system would be 16 inches further back from that, so it would appear to be quite wide.
Okay.
This takes us to our next bridge, which
But
is,
the other thing we're thinking about too is there's a lot of, there's on each side of the bridge, there's deteriorated the old cable system.
wire rope rail.
So there's no effective, one of the few things the town has to do with its roads is have effective guardrail systems. For whatever reason, the state passed a law saying that's what we have to do. So again, there's nothing really in place now to keep people from going into the brook or into the pond, and people have tried over the years to do that. So what we're looking at is to then replace the fallen down cable system with the beam rail.
Would the beam
Yeah.
rail suffice
Yeah.
for that?
It
Oh,
does.
Oh,
And
okay.
The rail would actually drop down to a single rail
Oh,
and be
okay.
on metal posts with 6-foot 3-inch spacing. What's there now are wooden posts with 10-foot spacing and 2 cable, it's called wire rope railing.
Yeah,
And if you get into the wire rope railing, it's very difficult to get out of it.
okay.
Simply because the strength of the posts is gone. They're all rotted away.
Right, got it.
So if you get into the wire rope, you go through it,
Got
not
it.
off of it.
The other thing we're going to try to do is, this pond has a hydrant in it that's never really worked well because it gets filled in with sediment. And so we're going to try to, the most effective place to put a hydrant, we've been told, is in the stream channel itself. So we're going to try to incorporate some sort of fire hydrant for that area into the guardrail thing. Because the problem with the parapets now, they're so tall that they're above the pump level of the truck. So it's hard to get, to hook something up there, so.
So you know the intersection, you've got Cream Hill Road here, and Cogswell Road is here. So the rail system would actually warp around, we'd have the rail pre-bent, so it would have all these the 3 radiuses created into it. This side is a straight run, and we'd replace the deteriorated wire rope railing with a metal beam rail.
So with this side though, can we, because I know they've got like a garden right
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
It'd be nice to, because I think also the protected area would be like here. Can we minimalize
Yes, this only goes this far.
that far, so it wouldn't go
This
to
goes
that?
less than 50 feet either side of the bridge.
Right.
This one actually goes around this.
Right,
Here's where the dry hydrant is,
yeah,
and we could, if we have a contractor out there, we could think about relocating the dry hydrant over into this area, which
Yeah.
is, it is actually taking, if you will, river soil away and depositing it over on this side. I know the Scots have had it cleaned a couple of times over the years. So that wouldn't be a difficult thing. We could actually put it right through the metal beam rail.
Yeah, it would be nice to preserve that sort of,
It's a very pretty house.
it's very
yes.
pretty, so it would be nice to preserve that.
Right. So that's site 1, and I'm going to show you a second site. This is Ford Hill Road, and this again is in relatively good condition structurally, but again this loose wire rope railing needs to be replaced. This rail would probably be adequate to have the metal beam rail attached right to it, so we don't need to really change that, but just add to it, supplement it. But this surface of Ford Hill Road, that needs to come up in a membrane waterproofing system, be put down on the concrete. The concrete would need to be repaired. Ford Hill Road would be a more expensive project. I've tried to give a guesstimate as to what it would cost. I think what we have to do is decide, first off, how much money is available. If we were to bid these 2 projects, and again, like the last few projects we've done, the design build process seems to be very cost effective. Do it in 2 stages. So we do, let's say, Cogswell Road first. I'm sure we have more than enough money to do Cogswell Road. And then if we have this as a secondary project, depending what contractor can come up with, we can decide how much of this we want to do. Well, undoubtedly, this is not nearly as heavy a bridge. It's going to need repairs to the underside of the bridge, as well as taking the wearing surface that's on there now. We'd have to close the bridge to do this. Patch the top of the bridge, put the membrane waterproofing on, and put a new wearing surface back on this bridge. And that, again, these systems go about 25 years.
I can't picture where Ford Hill, tell me where this is.
You know where the General Sedgwick Monument
Yes.
is? Right. It's a
Oh,
four-way
okay.
intersection right there, just beyond
Yep.
the Cannonballs, just north of the Cannonballs.
Okay.
That's Ford Hill Road, goes up to Fox Hill.
Right, it's a dirt road.
Thank you.
This area is all paved up to
Yep.
and including the bridge, but it's a very poor condition. If we were going to do this, we could put an approach slab in with a premix bituminous concrete, probably about 8 inches thick in 2 courses, then put the regular wearing surface over the top of that.
What's the optimal start and complete, like, is this, how many years are we talking about?
Oh, it's all one construction season.
No, but I mean in terms of waiting, like if we budget it out and you say to go with Cogswell first, are we talking about how much leeway for this particular project before things start to go south?
Well, it depends how much money we have available and what it's going to cost. We could not do all of the work that is necessary, or we could find more money. Those are our 2 options.
What's your recommendation on a time frame to do this one?
It can all be done in one construction season, but it's just a matter of funding.
But sooner rather than later in terms of
As far as
the
time goes,
integrity of the actual structure.
it gets so little use.
Okay.
The ADT, the average daily traffic count across the bridge, is extremely low.
Yes, I would imagine.
I don't see any imperative need for the next 5 years, probably.
Okay.
On either one of them, really. It just,
But if you
Cogswell
have the
Road-
funding, you might
Right.
as well.
Right.
right.
Got it.
Yeah, we
Cogswell
have
will
to,
continue to
yeah.
deteriorate and look unsightly.
Understood.
This gets so little use, not too many people notice it. This is a very large structure for the watercourse it serves, but they both ought to be done. There's a lot of things that could be done in town, but these are the next 2 on our
Right,
priority
before
list.
some emergency happens
Right.
and,
I
yeah.
don't
Right.
see either one of these in a failure mode.
Got it.
We've had a few of those in the past that I was quite concerned about.
So I think my thought is that we would go out to bid in this, fairly soon. We can go out to bid in March, get bids back in April, get prices. And again, we're not in any hurry, so that's one of the things that might help, saying it needs to be done this construction season, but again, it doesn't need to be done in June, July, it can be done September, whatever.
Yeah, we're used to that.
We're used to doing stuff in the fall. So then if we get a price, say we have 200,000, whenever the dust settles on Lake Road, if we have $200,000, the bids come in at 250 to do both, we can go back to a town meeting because had some good years in return. Our surplus is growing, and again, while we have expertise, while we've got some momentum, I propose we get these done and
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about them for another 25 years, or somebody else can worry about them in 25 years. But again, it just checks a box off. We've studied the condition of the bridges. These were the worst ones, and again, we'll have a sense of accomplishment of getting that all done. So that's what I was thinking. I think that makes a lot of sense. It gets the bond dealt with, and it gets the bridges dealt with, and if we have reserves, we're not talking about major projects. And if the bids all come back sky high, then we
Yeah.
put it off for a while, or we just do Cogswell, call it a day.
So that's where I think we're at. We can put both of them out to bid at the same time, see what we get for prices. do Cogswell first. There's probably enough money to do that because there's no structural work. I mean, taking off the parapets is going to look pretty heavy duty, but it isn't. It's just cutting off the concrete, cutting down there'll be reinforcing rods in there. We have to cut them down or a cap. So I'll leave these with you, Gordon. Here's a sketch
Okay.
of what I'm recommending. And there's the two locations. These are the only photographs I need from plans, but if that's what the board wants to do, I'll start.
Can we do a alternate, just to say, do a wood railing on the Cogswell Bridge just because of where it is? I mean, just to find out, say it's a couple $1,000s more,
Well, I think.
or do you
if
think
we go
there's
with-
any safety
I think there's a big safety concern. Yes.
Right.
But if we go into a design build, we can let the contractor determine what they can do for what kind of prices.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
that,
cool.
we just tell them what we want and let them come up with their suggestions. What the state calls value engineering. Let them say, gee, instead of doing this, if you want to do that, we can do that for this kind of price.
Right.
So if we put it in their hands,
Uh-huh.
we can get.
And look at a couple different types of
Yeah.
systems. That would be good, because there's so many traffic, well, if we have an effective guardrail system on the approaches,
Right.
and there are a lot of stop signs in that area, so in theory, people are slowing down somewhat.
In theory.
Yeah, but they're slowing down, whether they're stopping or not is another issue that comes up from time to time. But anyway, just a thought, because it is a pretty,
Yeah, that'd be nice to see some design options for sure.
yeah, great. So I think at this point, why don't we authorize Roger to take some next steps on including this? Because say if we can go out to bid before the town meeting, then if we need extra money at that May something town meeting, we just make that a separate call, or we can put it into our budget to say we're going to do these two bids. But yeah, and that's a May 22nd, so we have.
Sometime.
Yeah, but we'd have to, we'd want to know that,
Responses back.
yeah, we want to have some responses in April. Yeah, great. Okay, so do you want to keep all this? 'Cause
Yeah, okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pretty much determined you want to do that.
Yeah, I think what do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I think it sounds good. I was thinking if we had talked the other day in the office, you know, if you did go with wood or something like the bridge currently is, if it would be overshadowed by the rail system before and after it, you know, the shiny new metal fence would kind of take away from, you know, the replaced parapet, so to speak. You know what I mean?
A lot of it's a function of money, but anything can be. If you put a wooden rail system in, you have to have a steel, about a 3/4 inch steel plate behind it. Because if you get an errant truck, a timber rail needs something more behind it in order to be safe, you know, traffic safe.
So on River Road, we have a wooden bridge, wooden rail.
Yeah.
Is that metal tied into that?
Yes.
Metal beam rail?
Yeah.
And then on Lower River Road, we have wooden, because it's such a small, is that wooden beam rail there, or is that metal?
I'd have to go take a look at
Yeah,
it.
so whatever, we have just about one of everything.
Yeah, that's wood rail stuff.
Wood rail's down there, but it's very short.
But if there are design options to look at,
Right.
I feel confident that we can find something that
Right.
is safety and aesthetically
Yeah.
All we
pleasing.
do is come up with
Not shiny.
Yeah.
a bid request
Right.
for a design bid, let them tell us what they can do for
Right.
whatever price.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. We've been at it for an hour, so I think we're pretty good shape. So then we'll put those numbers in.
So I'll go through, going back to my budget with contracts and services and
Right.
supplies. And
Yep.
I'll sort that out because it does look like a few things probably should have gone in places.
Yeah, just,
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
right. Great.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's our highway. Now into email. How we doing?
Well, the last place I left it was to see if you were able to check in with the IT department vis-a-vis
Right.
an email address.
It's on my to-do list.
Okay.
Right.
So that's
Good.
really the next stepping block.
Yeah.
So, and John, I can call you, but really all we need to know is what's a safe email address to
Yeah.
use. Is it connected to the existing
Right.
package? And once we get an okay from the IT guy or woman, I can go ahead and start it with Jonathan.
Great. So that is,
So that's on the to-do list.
right. So, and his name's Greg Dale.
Right, yeah, that's
Perfect.
the thing,
Yeah,
yes.
and he's good, and I think he might have, like, go this way and you'll
Yes.
get what you want.
So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with whatever email address we use and that it's
Right.
acceptable for our safety for the town and all that stuff.
Right.
And then once that's established and confirmed, we can begin the process of creating the email and inviting people.
Great. Okay. Anything else on that?
No,
MailChimp.
but we'll stay on it.
Okay. Good. Torrent Area Health District Representative. We do need there's an opening there. So if we think about that, I thought I might fill in that temporarily just because there is, it's a very important thing to do it. But if we can think of somebody that has some contracting, engineering background.
Who was the former one that we
Who
had?
was, Tommy Giuliano was the
Oh,
most
okay.
current one, and then Charlie Gold did it for years. And then, can't remember who was before Charlie.
And this is an appointed position?
This is an appointed position. Each town, of which there are more towns than ever, belong to Torrent Area Health, but they meet 4 times a year, and they just go and talk about health issues, which isn't just septic, it's everything. They do a bunch of
Bodies of water and all that.
Correct. And they also they help us deal with, years ago we did pandemic planning. What happens if we have an attack of, something gets loose like what's happening over time. So, yeah, so it's really important to have people up at the top level of public health to just focus on this on a regional basis because a lot of stuff is
Do we
regional.
want to publicize that or is it
We
something
can
that?
publicize that.
Okay.
People that have it's good to have, certainly they do restaurant inspections, which is why Tommy did some stuff, because he was a certified chef. So restaurant inspections, septic systems are a big thing, well testing, and then public health in general. So next is Homeland Security grant. Every year we have a Homeland Security grant, which we are a member of the state Region 5, which goes from here. I think it goes almost all the way down to Fairfield County. And then what this does is, I forgot what it does, but it's run through the COG, and so they do a bunch of regional initiatives as far as training and other things. Their work on cyber, here's the things they're talking about. Expand regional collaboration, Kinetic Intelligence Center, critical infrastructure. They're talking about some detection of chemicals, metropolitan medical response system, so there's coordinated response, a citizen corps program, which we have a small thing here called a CERT, which is like an adjunct if there's a big emergency, and then cybersecurity is a big thing they're talking about. So this would allow them to work on all those areas on a region-wide thing. So it's bigger than the cog. So basically what we do is we say that we are part of this, we participate, and I'm the contact. And then, so all you have to do is authorize me to sign this agreement, memorandum of agreement regarding the use of federal funds for the year 2000, fiscal year 2019, State Homeland Security grant funding, and custodial ownership of regional assets in Demas Region 5. So we actually have a light tower that we store down at the garage. So if there's a big emergency, like the ice jams, I think down in Kent was the last time it went into use, that we can truck it down there and we light it up. So there's other places have trailers for hazardous materials. So they buy stuff and they just scatter it out around the town. So anyway, so is there a motion, and this says 2019 because there's also lag between the federal approving the money and then us spending it the next year.
Okay.
So that's not a typo. So is there so we need just a motion to authorize me to enter into a memorandum agreement with Connecticut Region 5 with the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We got a special pen here that says the Iron Bank, and I'll sign it. And 20. Okay, we'll give that back to the clerk to make sure it goes to the right place. There we go. Thank you, sir. So there's all that. Oh, so next is Eversource tree trimming. They're doing some tree trimming, not major, but it is going to be happening out in East Cornwall, College Street, Great Hill area, because that's where they've had quite a few outages. So that will be going on in the next year or so.
College Street in Great Hill?
Yeah. Okay, and they have to get landowner permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's what I've got. I think we're good.
Good.
Any public comment?
There's no public here to
Public?
comment.
Okay, no press. How's the press? Probably
We're all alone.
they're watching other things. So anyway, I think that's it for now, other than paying bills. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Rick.
it. That's pretty good for.
Move to adjourn?